Welcome to the Perfectly Flawed podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. For those that don't know you, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm James. I'm a T36 athletics athlete. I previously played for the Pararoos in seven-a-side CP football. I've got cerebral palsy and I've been dealing with mental health. Mental health's been a part of my life for a good long while.
Yeah, that's great. I personally don't know much about the classification in para athletes. So you've said you have cerebral palsy. How did you go about being classified?
At first I didn't really know. My mum picked up that I wasn't walking as well as my sister was. My sister was able to climb up all the things and I was dragging my left foot around or whatever and falling over all the time. I constantly had a grazed forehead. But so she took me to the physio and they're like, oh, he's got CP. And that was when I was about 5. And that didn't really change until I got to around 12 and I started getting really interested in sport. I was interested in sport, but I wanted to compete at a higher level. So I got classified in Newcastle, and basically there's national classification and international classification. And I started with just a national one where you can compete in national events. But as you progress to international events, you have to get an internationally certified classification. At first, I was at 38, but now I'm 36, which is moderate, but still able to walk and run and stuff for coordination impairment.
Yeah, it's so interesting. As I said, I personally don't know much about it, and it's definitely something that I'd love to know more about. Did your classification change based on your sport, or does it stay the same?
No, it stays relatively the same. It changed during high school. I had a growth spurt and I started falling down just standing. I just started falling down. And so I went to a football tournament in Spain for the Pararoos, and I was currently at 8 in football. And I went to Spain and I did exercises that I could previously do, found I could no longer do them. And they're like, well, you're a 6. And at first I was shocked. And I was shocked. And, usually that's something to be really happy about, because suddenly I went from not getting on the field because I was not really disabled enough, because you can only have 1 8 on the field at a time in football. And the captain was an 8, to one of the most valuable players on the field being a 6. But it's like, oh, you are more disabled now. But part of me thinks that when you're a kid, they're a lot stricter on what classifications they give you. And I had a twin sister. We were both very sporty. I was training from a very young age to be able to do all these tasks that you get put through in classification. So I was doing them 3, 4, 5 times a week at training. So I was very good at them. And it wasn't until I was older that they started going, hey, wait, he's doing all this training. Maybe he's more disabled than we thought he was.
It's interesting. So you did RUS before transitioning into athletics. How did that transition come about?
Well, the thing is, I was classified for athletics first, and I was just competing in Australia. I was doing pretty well as a 38, until they decided I wasn't disabled enough to compete anymore, which was 6 months out. I got 6 months before I got reclassified in Spain to say, oh no, you're more disabled than we thought you were. So that was a bit of a shock. So I stopped doing athletics for a bit because I was able to travel for soccer. I was in the Pararoos, and I was with a bunch of really good guys. Basically in 2015, athletics sent me an email going, hey, you used to run. You were all right. And you're a 36 now. How about you run an 800 meters? See how it goes. You might be able to go to Rio. So like, well, no one's gonna, throw away a chance to go to the Paralympics. So I gave it a shot, and then I started doing athletics.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's interesting how you say like how much it changes based on your ability and how that classification can continually evolve.
Oh yeah, it's actually a bit of controversy around it. There is a thing as like classification cheating. Like it's a thing, like it's almost like doping. It's like you got people like dodging classifications and trying to seem more disabled during a classification, and it is a big problem in the sport. But they're getting pretty good at weeding that out at the moment, so that's good.
Yeah, that is good. How did you go leading into Rio then, doing that 800?
Yeah, training went really well. I broke the Australian record, so that was pretty good. In the lead up to Rio, actually, that was my first qualifier, was breaking the Australian record. And I went to Rio and I was able to break the world record in Rio. So I ran out of my skin in Rio, and broke the world record and won the gold medal, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's more than pretty cool. I mean, I saw that race and you were so far ahead of even just the second person. It was amazing.
Well, the crowd was pretty loud, so I thought they might have been right behind me. So that kept me going pretty quick.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you had no idea how far in front you were.
No, I when around the last bend, the crowd picked up. I thought, oh crap, I'm about to get overtaken. So I tried to run faster. So I
For
wanted to
anyone
win,
that hasn't watched
obviously.
that race, they definitely need to go and watch it because it's amazing to see how far ahead you really were.
Yeah, they actually cut the 800 meters after that race.
That's so strange that they cut it.
Oh, they couldn't have people winning by that much, and there wasn't enough people in it, so they just cut it.
Wow. Do
Like,
you
cut.
think
Sorry, you go.
it's all right. I was say, do you think because of having cerebral palsy that sport is like a safe place, like a place where you feel like everybody else, you have the same opportunity as everybody else?
um, I mean, yes and no. Um, I grew up with a twin sister, and we were both quite sporty, except she was always the best at everything. So I was always second to her, if I wasn't further down. Um, I suppose sport was an escape for me a lot of the time. I mean, it was not. At first, it was not at all a place of equal opportunity. I wasn't making any rep teams or anything. I wasn't good enough, and there was no way I was ever going to be good enough, until I started playing with the Pararoos and stuff and got classification, and then all the doors opened up for me, and suddenly I had more opportunities than what most people would have. So it's a double-edged sword, really, because at the grassroots level, not at all, but at a high level, yes, absolutely. It's given me as much opportunity as I could want.
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in sport for quite some time, and I don't see that many para athletes come through in that grassroots level, but yet we have such an amazing cohort of para athletes competing for the country on a world stage, and you don't really see them come through until that sort of high level.
Yeah, because the thing is, it's either the only people that you seem to see are the people who are driven to make it that far no matter what. And so all the people who go, oh, if I get a chance, I'll keep doing it, they drop off early on because they don't get a chance, in a lot of things. It's hard to go from grassroots and work your way up the ranks when you're always coming last.
Mm.
I was lucky that I had quite supportive parents who were big on sport and big on giving me every opportunity I could get. It allowed me to actually find some success early on.
Yeah, definitely. And I think having a support group behind you is so important.
Oh,
How do
absolutely.
you push yourself through a hard session? Like if it's a hard training session or a tough race, how do you push yourself through that?
I love it when it's hard. I live for training being hard. It's hard to describe. It's almost like, it's going to sound really cheesy, but even with my mild cerebral palsy, I've often felt like my body is an adversary that I've got to fight. And if I'm able to push through a hard set, it's me winning over my body.
Yeah.
And, you know, I love the feeling. And I've always liked to push myself in everything. So my coach has often told me that I've got to stop. So pushing through a hard set isn't too hard for me. I see it as the reason that I do sport is to go through those hard sets.
Yeah. I mean, for me, coming from a swimming background, I personally find that pushing through a hard set, as horrible is at the time, afterwards, you have like this euphoric feeling, like you just feel so good. It's like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, absolutely. You feel a sense, if it's not hard, you don't feel the sense of accomplishment.
Mm.
And I've always loved pushing the boundaries of what I can and can't do and trying to be better than what I am.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important quality to have as an athlete at any level, but particularly a level that you're at.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to get better than what you were before. It's not always about being the best. It's about being the best you.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you ever get nervous before a race?
Sometimes, but only in the sense that I want to run well for me, and when I know that I'm in a hard training phase and I'm absolutely not going to run well. The calmest I've ever been was on the start line at Rio.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but it's the calmest I've ever been, and I was standing there going, "Oh, it's time to run. Good." And yeah, sport is a bit of a safe place for me. Like I love it. I love sport and I love competing and I love training because no matter what, you can make sure that you've put your best out there in sport.
Yeah. When you are feeling nervous, what do you tell yourself to either push them aside or work through it?
When I'm feeling nervous before a race, I'm just like, just do what you've done at training hundreds of times and you'll be fine. Just run to the plan that you've got. And even if it's not your best run, it won't be too bad.
Do you think that's why you probably felt so calm at Rio, is because you knew you'd done all the work, you had that reassurance that you'd done the training to back yourself up?
Yes, I had worked very hard before Rio. I was hitting very good times. I had a plan of exactly how I was going to run the race, to the times I was going to get for the first 200, to the second 200, the third 200, to the last 200. That's probably why I was so calm, is because I knew exactly what I needed to do. I knew exactly how to do it and that I could.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think has been one of your biggest challenges or setbacks so far?
My biggest setback actually was directly after Rio. One of the reasons I was big in sport and wanted to go to the Paralympics and break world records and stuff is growing up, I felt quite inadequate, a bit of a burden, and I wasn't in a good place for a lot of my childhood growing up. And I thought to myself, one day, I made a promise when I was like 5 to myself, one day I will be the best in the world at one thing. I'll just find something and I'll be the best in the world at that, and then I'll be okay. Everything will be okay then. And I'll feel good about myself then. I'll be the best in the world and then I'll be okay. And I won Rio, came back with a gold medal, broke the world record, and nothing changed. I was the same person. I felt the same about myself as before. And that almost broke me. Like, my life was falling apart. I broke up with my girlfriend of the time. I was the most depressed I've ever been. It was a really rough time. And I think I'd put all this hope into the one thing fixing it, when winning the gold medal just took that hope away. And really, I was just a bandage that I was using to escape from the lie I was telling myself that I wasn't good enough. And no amount of quote unquote achievement was going to fix that. So it was something I was running away from fixing myself, and I was just patching it with trying to go for glory.
I think a lot of people use sport as a way to escape what's going on personally, or even what's going on in their mind. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more? I mean, I guess what was going on for you during your childhood? You said it was a bit rough. And then even again, after you said you really hit a low after Rio, how did you come out of that?
For my childhood, and the first things first, my parents meant well. They had the best of intentions. They wanted me to be able to understand that, they wanted me to avoid being bullied, and they wanted me to understand that things weren't always going to go my way when it came to sport. And I grew up with being told that to walk like a normal person, because I walked with my legs funny, and I got told that because I missed out on trialing for a rep team because of an injury when I was 10, and Dad said that it was a good idea because I'd never make it to a rep team. I was only ever going to be just above average no matter how hard I tried, and that was very hard to take, I guess. And of course, I had heaps of physio, heaps of OT, lots of work done on me. Like, my parents worked really hard for me to be able to live at least a somewhat normal life. And all that, and I misinterpreted that as a lot of children would, as I wasn't good enough and I was a burden. I wasn't normal, and that was a bad thing. I was below normal, and I had to at least pretend to be normal. And that was quite rough growing up. And of course, I had a twin sister who was fantastic at everything. She went to a new school one year, immediately broke their butterfly record without going into a pool for 6 months beforehand. And she was an amazing sports person. And I grew up being just lesser all the time. I mean, I didn't have too many friends, but that wasn't because of my disability. That was because I was a weirdo. But yeah, childhood was hard, but I thought, well, if I become good at something, then it'll be better. And I used sport, as a bandage. I loved middle distance because it was an escape. You could run, and then it was literally running away from my problems, literally running away from them. And it was an escape. Like, this is going to sound really sadistic and bad, but part of me liked the pain because at least it wasn't just on the inside anymore. And I mean, I don't think it's that way now. I liked running objectively, but I've used my anger and dislike of myself, to fuel it for a long time. And after Rio, I was expecting myself to now like myself, because I'd done it. I'd achieved the great thing that that was almost impossible to achieve. And I found that I still didn't like myself. So I guess, focusing on myself, I was seeing a psychologist at the time. I started seeing a psychologist every week during the time after Rio. And I was training with Brett Robert, and he was really helpful to me in that time. Very big on mindfulness and all that stuff, and holistic health, not just physical health and running fast. And I guess just training for the next competition what brought me out of it. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just train for the next competition and I'll get to run. I get to run every day. So that's probably what pulled me out of that time, is that I was able to do sport every day.
Yeah, I think you've touched on a few things there. And I think, one, you're never a burden. No one's ever a burden. And I think, as you said, your parents obviously meant well. They wanted the best for you, and they didn't want you to feel like you stood out compared to everybody else. But the reality is, you do have a condition that not everybody else has. So your life is going to be different. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just different.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of feel like a lot of people, it's easy to, as I did for a long time, it's easy to be angry at your parents for all the slights that they made against you when they were trying to bring you up and do what's best for you. But really, I feel like we're all just dancers with left feet stepping on each other's toes, even though we're just trying to get through the dance. And sometimes we forget that.
Yeah, we're all human. We make mistakes. It happens.
Yeah, everyone's just trying to do their best and get through, but everyone's really terrible at it.
Yeah, and I think what you said before too is that using the emotional pain that you have and conveying that into your running to make it physical pain. I think that's probably more common than what we realize. I think physical pain is a lot easier to deal with, and we know how to deal with it. We don't, and other people can see it then too. Other people can see what's going on. You can't see or fully understand what's going on in someone's mind.
Yeah, and there's a reason for it. You know why you're hurting, because you're running. And sometimes when you're in emotional distress, you don't always know why. And that's scary, because you don't know why, you don't know how to fix it.
Yeah. What was it like seeing a psychologist after Rio? How did you make the decision to do that, and what was it like?
Yeah, I made the decision to do that. I'd seen a psychologist through high school as well. It was fine, I guess. I've seen a few psychologists that I didn't really mesh with, and went to another one. It's always worth finding one that works for you. But I didn't have that problem between Rio and the world champs in London in 2017. So it was a transformative experience, I suppose, because I got onto the path of no longer hating who I am, and realizing that, well, I'm not terrible, and I'm not just a burden, and I haven't made everybody else's lives worse just by existing. It's just the story I've told myself to understand why things are hard, or why I don't feel as good as what I feel like I should.
And I think it's an amazing thing to say, hey, you know what, this isn't going very well and I do need help, and I'm going to go and seek the resources that I need to fix it?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I found it quite daunting to admit to myself that I needed to see a psychologist, because I thought, oh, I'm physically broken. I don't want to be mentally broken as well. But I made the leap, and while getting there wasn't the easiest thing, it's not about being broken, I guess. It's more having difficulty and needing help with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not always an easy process either. Sometimes sessions are really hard and you feel like crap afterwards, but you know that it's beneficial long term.
Yeah, and it's not a straight line to getting better. Like, I've had ups and downs. Even in the last couple of weeks, I've had ups and downs, where I've regressed into thinking that I'm a terrible person. But it gets a little bit easier, I guess, as time goes on.
Yeah, definitely. So when you are having an off day now, like as you said, you've been a bit up and down, what strategies do you have that you can use?
Um, well, if I'm having a really bad day, I'll try to think objectively about. I'll even write down what am I feeling, what did I do because of how I was feeling, and what would have been a better response, or is there any sort of I guess the opposite of logic with what I'm doing. A lot of times, though, I'm not well versed enough to actually use all the tools that I've been given. I know I do slip up sometimes and just let myself be there. But I'll often call my mum. I'll talk to my girlfriend. I try to be open, I guess, with it.
Yeah, I
Because
think that's really good to do that.
yeah, because there's nothing worse than being sad and alone.
Yeah, it's not a great combination.
No, it's not great.
So let's take a step back. If you have a race or you've done a session that doesn't go to plan, what's your first response internally or even externally? Is your immediate response of like, oh, that was really shit? Do you beat yourself up about it, or do you think, oh,
Oh,
okay, it wasn't my
absolutely. Yeah,
best?
I definitely beat myself up about it. I hate it so much. Like, I'll even do a good set, but if I think that I was supposed to be doing a better set, I'll like immediately beat myself up about it, and my coach will be like, "No, you're not supposed to be running any faster than what you are. What are you thinking? You're an egg." um, so sometimes that helps. Just getting told, "What? That's absolutely wrong. That thinking's not helping you. Like, it's not the truth." Sometimes it's good to be a bit wrong.
Yeah, and I think as athletes, we have to be hard on ourselves in order to improve. But it's also important for, if it's your coach or someone else that is an important part of your life, to say, hang on a second, let's take a step back. You actually did all of these things right.
Yeah, and for a long time, I was, going. I was very quite concerned that if I stopped being super critical of myself and stopped hating on myself all the time, then I wouldn't improve anymore, because get complacent. But working with my psychologist, he told me, well, when you're having a really good session, how do you feel? I'm like, when I'm having a really good session, I feel like I can do it. I can go further and I can run faster and it feels great. It's like, well, obviously you're going to improve if you're feeling like that, because you're going to go, well, I can do it. Let's go do it,
Yeah.
And so I was quite scared of getting complacent, but I think now that I don't have to be.
Yeah. Do you think that the expectations that you have are mainly from yourself or externally or both?
Um, a bit of both. I mean, for the coming up Paralympics in Tokyo, I'm kind of penciled in for 2 golds, and that's what is expected. You know, people say, "Oh, we don't expect that," but you kind of are. Like, there are a set number of golds that Paralympics Australia wants to win, and Athletics Australia wants to win, and I'm in that estimate, probably for at least one, possibly probably two, out of the 2 events that I'm in. So there is a little bit of external pressure, but most of it comes from me. At the end of the day, if I don't run as well as I want to and I don't win, I'm going to be the one that's disappointed.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think there is a lot of pressure, I think, particularly coming into the Olympics, that people expect you to perform at a certain level. And as you said, obviously the organizations want to come out, they have a goal of how many medals or how many wins or things they want to come out with. And obviously they expect it to come from someone.
Yeah, they have their certain athletes that they think is going to achieve something. They don't just go, "Oh, we're on the board. Where's a good number of medals to get? There. How about we just go there?" They actually look at what athletes they've got and go, "Well, we expect this X amount."
Yeah. So how are you feeling going into Tokyo then? I mean, obviously the lead up to these games have been a little more challenging than normal. How are you feeling going in?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, having an extra year is always good, I guess. I'm running pretty well. My coach isn't upset with me, so that's good. It's a good sign. I'm not injured. Good sign. Touch wood. Don't want to curse myself right before the games. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, the 100 is always going to be close, but I'm sure that I can perform well, even if it doesn't mean I win or even get a medal. I'm sure that I'm in shape to perform at my best.
Yeah. And would you say your goal from this meet, like you've said that there's, sort of those expectations that you will get at least one gold. What goals do you have going in?
Oh, I mean, it sounds really pompous and terrible, but I like to achieve. I like to set really high standards for myself. I like to set goals that scare me, and that I think, well, I probably don't. I had no business of setting these goals, but I want to win and break the world record for both the 400 and the 100. But realistically, I just want to get PPs in both of them.
Yeah. I think it's important. I can't remember what the quote is exactly, but something like, if you shoot for the moon and you miss, you fall amongst the stars. Like setting that bar high and not quite reaching it is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, aim for the moon. At least you've cleared the back fence.
Yeah. Absolutely. What kind of impact do you think sport has had on your life? Like you've said that you've kind of used it as a bandage for certain things. Is there any other impact that it's had, and do you think it's sort of changed across your life?
Yeah, it definitely has. When I was a teenager, and I was training with the Pararoos and the New South Wales Paralympic football side, I found a community that I could relate to and that I was a part of. It was connection that I hadn't really found much in school or otherwise. And they were mentors to me and brothers to me, I guess. They got me through some really tough times in high school. Not sure if I'd even be here talking to you if it weren't for them. Like, sport has been, it's a way of life, I suppose. Sport has given me a community and something to strive for, and an ideal to set for myself of how to live and be a good person, I suppose. It's given me something to work for. It's, as corny as it sounds, it's given my life meaning and stuff like that. So lately it has changed. I don't use it as much of a crutch now, but I still do have ambitions for after my athletic career to having some sort of involvement in sport.
Yeah,
So it's always given me something to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's really good to have, or whilst you're an athlete, you have an identity outside of the sport too.
Oh yeah, I'm not just Jimmy the runner who runs around in circles and sometimes in a straight line. I mean, I've done uni. Well, I haven't finished any degrees, but I've attempted. Yeah, I've got hobbies outside of sport. So I have been guilty of tying too much of my identities to sport at times as well, though. It is something that I have to be careful of.
Yeah, I think most people do.
Yeah.
You mentioned before that you had a lot of support when you were playing football. Now that you're doing athletics, I mean, whilst training and having the same, there is still support there. Do you miss the social aspect of doing a team sport?
I do. I honestly do. The team environment was a lot closer with the Pararoos. And there is like a sense of group achievement when you do well. Not that there isn't in athletics when your teammates do well, but it is different, and I do miss it. But I'm still in contact with them, so that's good. And they're doing really well lately, so it's good to see.
Yeah, that is awesome. So I have 3 more questions for you that I like to finish with. What is
Awesome.
something that you are most proud of about yourself?
Whew. That is a hard one. I think the thing that I'm most proud of is that I have, even though I've had difficulties being anxious about stuff, I have become a mostly functioning adult. And I am learning to ask for help when I need it. I'm not very good at it, but I'm learning, and I continue to improve. I guess that's the thing I'm most proud of in myself.
Yeah, and I definitely think that is absolutely something that you should be proud of.
Yeah, it's good. Made it this far. Still ticking.
The second question is, what is your favorite quote or the best piece of advice that you've been given?
I think the best piece of advice have been given was from my old coach, Brett Robinson. And he told me, don't think of things that happen in your life as good or bad. Treat them as experiences to grow and learn from.
That's really good.
And
I like that.
I like it because you got to be grateful for the experiences that you get, the good and the bad. Well, because if I didn't have hardships growing up, I don't think I'd be the person I am today. I might not even be happy with the person I would be today if it weren't for those hardships. So I am quite grateful that I did have those hardships, as much as I didn't like them at the start.
Yeah, and it is great that you can reflect on that now and see that.
Yeah, I think there's power in turning adversity into strength.
Absolutely. The last question I have for you is, do you have any tips for those that are listening or anything else that you would like to add?
Any tips? I guess my biggest tip would be to try to be understanding. As much as people hurt you, as I said earlier, we're all just people with two left feet trying to dance through this life, and we're stepping on each other's toes, no matter how hard we're trying. And by trying, we might hurt each other. But it doesn't mean there's malice or any ill intention. Most of the things that you think other people think of you, they probably don't. We get so caught up in our perceptions of other people that we forget that that's what they are, perceptions, and not the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've shared a lot of amazing things in there. There is one more question that I am going to add. I know I said I only had 3, but I do have one more. What
Go
do you
ahead.
think? What do you think is your biggest achievement so far?
My biggest achievement. Now, that's a hard one. I mean, Rio was good. That was a pretty big achievement, but I think it was better that I got through post Rio. I got through that, and I kept doing sport, even though I was in terrible shape. Like, I came out mentally terrible, but I stuck with it and allowed sport to help me come out the other side, I guess.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to hear you say that, because I think the average person would assume that, I mean, you won a gold medal and broke a world record. Why is that not your biggest achievement? And whilst that's not necessarily not an amazing achievement on its own, there are so many other aspects that you have accomplished in your life that are just as important.
Exactly. And I mean, something that I kind of figured out, I guess, after that experience is that success isn't the gold medals. It's not the world records. It's not having the huge bank account or the fancy cars. Success is living a life that makes you happy and fulfills you. And on that metric, I find that I'm pretty successful because I love doing sport and I get to do it every day.
Yeah, that's a pretty amazing thing to have.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today and being able to share all the life experiences that you've had so far. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Renee.